as long as I can't sleep on my...
No.
No, everybody gets interrupted.
Just take care of your own the best you can.
Heather and Shelby.
Video.
Oh.
I just wanted to say a couple words of gratitude to Uncle David for coming spending 3 hours to come up here and 3 hours to go back and spend his whole evening. He's written a lot of fantastic material. I don't know if you know this, but he's a world-renowned engineer on salts and fertilizers. He's flown all over the world, and they paid him thousands of dollars to listen to the intellectual information that he has to share, and he's coming up to do it to you guys for free. That's pretty amazing. I've heard some of his stories and some of his testimony, and it is a real builder to my testimony. He has published a lot of things that he calls his soapbox discussions that he sends out to all his kids to strengthen their testimonies. And I am just really excited. So I know that if you listen to this marvelous man that has put so much work into this, it will really help your testimony. So I just wanted to give that plug because I am really appreciative of this man for spending his time coming up here.
Thanks, Bart.
Hey guys, I want you to know that this is the smartest man in the world.
I thought I was, Marilyn.
I said, well, I said, maybe Ryan would have invented the radio that you're sick.
All right.
Anyway,
Let's have closing prayer now.
I remember when he was a little boy that he would spend hours and hours and hours at a time trying to get on his radio to get all the shortwave things from all over the world. He'd spend hours and hours and hours. And he went on a mission, what they call the Spanish American mission in those days. And I know that he's wanted all over the world to teach scientists how to extract potassium out of salt to be used for fertilizer. And they won it all over the world. And he said he got so tired, he said, okay, I'm not going to charge $10,000 anymore per visit. I'm going to charge $20,000. You know what? They still wanted me to come. They said, we are willing to pay $20,000 for you to come and give our scientists a lecture. So he's not filthy rich because his kids take all his money.
We can all relate to that.
Yeah.
I like that philosophy.
But I wanted to know how happy and proud I am of him, as well as my best friend, Joanne, who has been trying to keep me in line for 10 years now. Doesn't work.
Good luck.
Some of us have been doing it for longer than that.
Hopefully you have better success than we have.
So, and she's going to speak to us too, but perhaps not tonight. So she says she wants David to go as long as possible because she wants to hear the lecture, and she said I'll talk to him another time. So I just wanted you guys to know that. And we need to have a prayer. Kenny, would you give the prayer for us?
Yeah.
When people ask me, how am I always say, better than I deserve. Because we are so lucky to live here. We are so lucky compared to the many places where I've been. I'll talk a little bit about that later. But first I want to start off.
Talk loud, David. And some of us are happy.
I can't hear either, but I'll try to talk as loud as I can. Can you hear me? If I talk about
That's a little bit better, yeah.
Okay. Well, Drake, you were going to come and help me, right?
I'll record
So,
this.
and I talked to a lady there, and they don't have education in this city. Nobody goes to school. There's a lot of places in the world where that occurs. And a lot of places don't hear of anything. They're not taught about God. They don't hear about Jesus Christ. One time I was in China, had an interpreter, and I said, I want to tell you something about Jesus Christ. And the interpreter turns to me and he says, I can't interpret that word because I've never heard it before. Because what does it mean? I want to tell you something about a refrigerator. I want to tell you something about a car. I want to tell you something about Jesus Christ. See, he couldn't put that together. And so I said, it's a man, a very special man. I just want, we're so lucky here in this United States. And so bigger than I deserve. I think, you know, why me? Why am I so lucky when I go over the world and see the poverty and the problems that these people have? Well, anyway, I'll say some things that maybe you won't quite understand. But if you work at it and you think, you study, pray about it, things like that, then you'll understand. And if any of you later want to know how I do that trick, I'll even tell you.
I can tell she's
Okay, first of all, how do we know the Bible's true? That's why I asked that question on the gym. Well, a lot of people I know say it's fiction. So I want to talk a little bit about a dream that a man had, a king, called Nebuchadnezzar. And he had a special dream. Any of you know what he dreamt about?
Jesse?
It was the guy where, it was like, the top of it was like gold and
Which, yeah, you're on the right track. Now, I'm 82, and I'm losing my hearing, and I'm losing my eyesight. I can see far enough to drive cars, but I have to use glasses. And even with glasses, I have a hard time, so I want somebody to read what he dreams. So maybe you can read it for you. Okay, now first of all, I want to say that the dream is right. He had a dream about a great big statue, but he couldn't remember the dream. That's the problem. He couldn't remember the dream, but he knew he had it. And this king said, I want my wise men to tell me what I dreamt. And they called him in. And the wise men said, well, tell us the dream, we'll interpret it for you. But we don't know what it is. And so if you're really wise men, you ought to, and because none of them, I'll have you beheaded. And one of them said, well, I know somebody that can interpret dreams. And his name was Daniel. He was a prophet. And so he got a hold of Daniel. And Daniel interpreted the dream. That's what the dream said. Please read it. This is the interpretation of the dream.
Thou, O King,
Saweth.
thou
Let me say it, okay? Thou, O king, sawest, and behold, a great image. This great image, whose brightness was excellent, stood before thee, and the form was terrible. This image's head was of gold, the breast and his arms of silver, the belly and thighs of brass, his legs of iron, his feet of iron and part clay.
Okay, so that was right. But the head, so the interpretation was, there's the head. And what does it say?
The head was made of gold,
Okay, and
the breast and arms of silver, and the belly and thighs of brass,
his legs of iron, his feet in part six.
good. So I'll put it this way. Head of gold, arms and breast of silver, belly and thighs of brass, legs of iron, feet of clay. All right. Now we need an interpretation. What does all of this mean? First of all, why didn't King Nebuchadnezzar remember the dream? That's a harder. He didn't remember the dream because the Lord wanted Daniel, a prophet, to interpret that dream so they would know he had some magical powers from God, right? Okay. Now, can somebody read this out loud? Over here. This is the interpretation. What do these things mean?
The interpretation of Nebuchadnezzar's dream. Thou, O king, art a king of kings. Thou art this head of gold. And after thee shall rise another kingdom inferior to thee, as silver is inferior to gold. And after this, a third kingdom of brass, which shall bear rule over all the earth. And a fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron. And this kingdom shall be divided into many kingdoms. And as the toes of the feet were part iron and part clay, so will some of these kingdoms shall be partly strong and partly broken. And in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom, which shall never be destroyed. And the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever.
So the dream of Nebuchadnezzar was 3,000 years ago. 3,000. And he had the dream, and the interpretation then, we see, this represented his kingdom. He was king of Babylon, right? Everybody knew that. And then Daniel the prophet said, there will be another kingdom will come after you. And that kingdom will be, or we know from history, the Medes and the Persians. And they said another kingdom will conquer, and become this kingdom, the Greeks, the Macedonian Empire. Okay? Another kingdom after that will be strong, a strong kingdom. That's Rome. Now remember, Rome came during the time of Christ. Rome was really starting, and it was a strong kingdom. And then Rome, that strong kingdom, would break up, like there's many toes on your feet, but it would break up into many kingdoms. Now, these are the kingdoms of Europe. Can anybody name a kingdom of Europe? Germany? I don't know if yeah, I got Germany here, okay. So these are some of the kingdoms. Kingdoms of Germany, Italy, got Italy, yeah, France. There's France. I don't have all of them. But good. I've got England. You can say it back to England. Belgium, Austria, and there are many more. And they broke up. Now remember, this was foretold 3,000 years ago, and this is what would happen. Now, what does this indicate to you about the Bible? Does it indicate anything to you about the Bible?
Prophetic.
Pardon?
It's not fiction.
It's true. It's true. How can that happen? And this isn't just the only one. There are lots of scriptures in the Bible. It can't be a coincidence. God exists. It's true. And the Bible's true. And what's going to happen? Does it say at the end of it? What will happen at the very end?
And in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever.
And what do we know that kingdom that was set up? Do we know what that kingdom is?
The Lord's kingdom.
Yep.
And what's it called today when you go to the church? The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Latter-day Saints is the name of that kingdom, and no other religion in the world claims that. This is in, now there are many scriptures, and I like the one in Isaiah 2:2 that says, and in those days the Lord will set up temples in the tops of the mountains, and all nations will flow. Okay? I know that that Bible is true. Not just because of that, but because of other ones. And the most important is the Holy Ghost. And I think most of you have been given that gift. Well, all of you have the privilege of the Holy Ghost speaking into your heart and into your mind. That makes you know that it's true, and you don't have to have proof by things. But some kind of proof. And then the Holy Ghost said that, there really is. So, and the world, and the land, the world was not flat. And her reaction was, she laughed and laughed, because she'd never heard anything like that. And I was on the Salar de Atacama, which is a huge salt flat, like our salt flat would be here. And it's flat. It's just plain flat. And she told me that. How could you think that? And we hear things about Joseph Smith. We hear things about the Bible. For example, it's a fiction. I have a couple of good friends that don't believe in God, and I'll talk about that a little later. And so I said, well, if I grew up in a town like that, and if I didn't have anyone to teach me, to me the world looks flat to me. And how would I know any different? It's like the string thing. You don't know how to do it unless somebody shows you how, right? And then it's easy. And then you understand it. Okay. When I was a little kid, and Jesse will remember this, we had what we call a stoker that took coal and fed it by a worm gear into our furnace to keep our house warm. So our whole home was heated with coal. Coal man would have to come dump the coal in a pile. We shoveled it into a little coal room, and then every morning we'd shovel the coal and put it into the stoker. Well, I was in the 2nd grade, and my teacher gave me a little letter, said, take this home to your mom and have her sign it and bring it back to mom. So I took it home. I thought when I went to pull it out, I couldn't find it. It was lost. I went back to school, I looked all over. Couldn't find it. And that night, I was worried. So that night I knelt down to say a prayer. I was by myself. And Father, help me find that. And I'll just do anything. I'll do more than my chores, So that morning I got up, and the stoker came about this high. So I had to grab a hold of it, pull myself up to look in, to see how much coal I had to shovel. So the Spirit kept saying, look in. I was going to shovel it in. I said, look into the stoker. So I pulled it up and looked in, and there, laying on the coal, was that envelope. It's true. And I don't know how it got there, except I prayed to my Heavenly Father, and He answered the prayer, and all that. And I thought, well, Mom could even that was stupid to me, because I had shovel could go on or something. The Holy Ghost told me in my mind, look in, and I looked in. And He did that to give me more testimony about Heavenly Father, that God exists. And that He answers prayers. And I can go on and on. But, I can take all kinds of time talking about those, and I'll have a few more stories. But let me go on. I'm going to take this down quick. Ray, why don't you take this down and just lay it on it there. Never get the other one. Our Father in heaven, like I said, He answers my prayers. This helped convince me years ago when I heard about the dream that the Bible is true and real. But, as the scripture says, and in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom that will never be destroyed. So those kingdoms were all destroyed, and all will be eventually. They're all falling, and one had to be set up in the days of those kingdoms. So here comes the boy that wanted to know more about that too. He didn't know. There's all kinds of reasons. When I travel around the country, I make a point of studying each one of the people's religions. So when I speak to them, I don't offend them, because I want to tell them a little bit about my religion. I want to make sure everything is okay. So here Joseph Smith comes, and he wanted to know about the Bible. He wanted to know the truth about religion. And so he knelt and prayed. And he said, I saw a pillar of light descending exactly over my head. And it was above the brightness of the sun, which descended gradually until it rested upon me. When the light rested upon me, I saw two personages whose brightness and glory defy all description, standing above him in the air. One of them called me by name and said, pointing to the other, this is my beloved son, hear him. And by hearing him, we find that this is Jesus Christ, our Heavenly Father. There was Son, and the Holy Ghost was there. The Holy Ghost. And that Holy Ghost is what costs us. Without it, we need to have the Holy Ghost. But it came to him. This resulted in the fulfillment of King Nebuchadnezzar's dream right here. And he was told, now this is just a young boy,
They made this dream.
14, 15,
Not yet, Drake's not 14 yet.
pretty soon. And then he was told that the ends of the earth shall inquire after thy name. And hell will rage against thee, while the pure in heart and wise and noble and virtuous will seek counsel and authority and be blessed constantly from his hand. That is another fulfillment of Scripture. This is written in the book, in the Doctrine and Covenants. And so, and certainly it came true. I mean, how could a little one say that if it's not going to be true? It came to pass. He's known all over the world different localities all over the world. And it's expanding and expanding. Okay. Put my glasses on so I can see what I'm going to say here. If God, now, the Bible's true, talks about God, talks about Jesus Christ, and we have all of that, and we know that it's true. But what's the reason for it? I mean, there has to be a reason. If there is a Father in heaven, then what's it all about? And this is things that it's up to us to learn more and more about it. Some people say, well, the Bible has inconsistencies. Okay, I want to talk about that. I like to fly airplanes. I teach people how to fly airplanes. I'm a certified flight instructor. It's my hobby. It was. I'm too old to do that anymore. It was my hobby. So I used to do it. And one time I was flying the airplane. It was a single engine, small airplane. I was 200 feet above the ground, and I was inspecting the solar ponds that Great Salt Lake had a passenger with me. And we were looking it over. And I thought, well, I know how to fly an airplane. I'm going to do a stall. I'm going to stall the airplane to give my passenger a little rush, a little thrill. And so I stalled the plane, looking out, wasn't paying much attention to the stall, which I should have. And instead of the plane stalling, it went into a spin.
Oh no.
And I can still visualize it. The nose came up, was going to stall, and that wing started coming up. As soon as it started coming up,
And you're at 200 feet?
I'm at 200 feet.
Oh my.
So I knew I was in a stall, and I also knew I was going to crash. Because you can't recover from a stall at 200 feet. And it came up, and I saw the, when you're in a spin, it doesn't, you don't feel the spin, you see the earth spinning. And there the earth was spinning, and it was like I blacked out. And I opened my eyes, and the plane was flying straight and level.
Wow.
And that shook me up. And I looked over at my companion, he didn't know. He just thought everything was okay. And I just smiled at him. But I said, oh, something really miraculous has just now happened. I flew the plane back to the airport, called up a buddy of mine, Wolfgang Wein, he was also a flight instructor. And I said, come on down to the airport, we're going to do spins. So we got in the airplane, went up 5,000 feet above the ground, and we did spin after spin after spin, and it always took us 400 foot to recover. And I don't know how, it seemed to me like we hadn't even lost any altitude when we went up straight and level. Okay, I'm going to give you another story. I teach people how to fly an airplane without looking at the ground. Reference to instruments. All they do is look at the instruments. And they have to learn how to fly them. When I fly a plane on instruments, if I'm in a cloud or I have to land at night, I can't see the runways and so forth, when I close it's like closing my eyes, but you look at that, and I can always feel that plane turning. It's always turning like that. But it really isn't. It just feels like that. It always wants to turn. And so the reaction is, well, turn the yoke this way to counter it. And that means you'll actually make the plane turn itself. So you have to follow those instruments. There's an altitude indicator, an airspeed indicator, turn and bank indicator, artificial horizon. You scan across those instruments and you do what they say. If you don't, you're going to run into a problem. Now most of my students, I make them fly the airplane with their eyes closed. I'll say, we'll be flying there. I say, okay, close your eyes and fly this airplane. And I'll make sure everything's okay. So they close their eyes, fly the airplane, and then I just wait until the airplane, it always happens, the airplane turns like that. And when an airplane banks, then it wants to slide, it wants to drop a little. And the pilot can feel that. Well, the reaction is pull back on the yoke to stop it. So they pull back on the yoke, and that just makes it worse, because the plane wants to come this way, and so it's what we call a graveyard spiral. Because if you keep doing it, you'll run it into the ground. And then I'll say, open your eyes. And then he'll open his eyes and see what position that plane is and how different he thought it would be. And I said, so you can't ever fly a plane in the clouds. Don't you dare go into those clouds unless you know how to read the instruments and obey the instruments. And I say that to the, when I'm talking spiritually, we have guides. We can't live life in the clouds. We have 10 commandments that are given to us. We need to know what those are, and we need to follow them, or we're going to have real problems. We're going to have real problems. Okay.
Uncle David, they say it takes an average of 30 seconds for a pilot who's VFR trained before they get vertigo when they go into the clouds. In an average of 30 seconds, you'll totally lose all context of your spatial
Whenever
position.
I teach them how to fly on instruments, I have a throw it back with me. And I try to catch them before that happens. Because when they're flying the plane only on instruments, they have this feeling that the plane is doing something different than the instruments. And it gives them vertigo. And it makes them nauseated. It takes 30 to 40 hours for them to be trained on it. And, it's interesting that sometimes we think we know better than our Father in heaven. And it'll give us problems if we don't follow the commandments, don't follow what we know we need to be doing. But first of all, you have to know that God exists, and we know that, and we have proof. Okay, let's see. I can go on forever, so I don't want to do that. So, okay. I want to talk about, to me, I'm a chemical engineer. And a chemical engineer does two things. He knows a little bit about chemistry, and he knows a little bit about engineering. And you put the two together. And when I was, one time I was in Peru talking to a group of people, and the subject, we were talking engineering. They were all engineers, and most of them were chemical engineers. And one of them, talking about reason one, I said, well, there's really no proof of God. There really isn't. And if anyone says that to me, then they're going to have an argument.
It's on.
So, first of all, we did see some proof. But, so I took the time and I said, I want to explain something to you as a chemical engineer, and then you kind of talk to me about it, and let's see what we think. Now, in your body, you have the pancreas. And in the pancreas, there are little bumps. We call them aisles of Langerhans. The name is given to the man that discovered these little things. And these little aisles of Langerhans are actually little plants, not plants that grow, the refineries, like an oil refinery. But they're miniature, they're tiny, and they make a complicated compound called insulin. Now, how did a factory, a complete factory, evolve to make insulin is very, very complicated amino acid in your body. Do any of you take insulin? Good, you're all good and healthy. You need insulin, and if you don't have it, you get sugar diabetes, okay? And so this little complicated, when you go back to the refinery and you look at it, you're looking at the same complication as it takes for these little tiny factories in your pantry. And then next to them is another factory, and it makes glycogen. And you gotta have glycogen to make sure you don't over or under produce insulin. And it's another complicated factory. It has all the things that's needed. And once that whole factory is at the same temperature. Nitrogen has to pick out magnesium, oxygen, it has to pick those out and put them all together into this compound insulin that is made out of hundreds of atoms. Hundreds of them. And they have to be put in just this special way, or it won't work. Now, how in the world can that plant all of a sudden appear? And insulin all of a sudden appear? How can it happen? Without some kind of a creator. Now, you can look at, people will tell you, well, you know, they can explain how a giraffe got a long neck. They might be able to explain why fish have fins. You know, they can explain all of that, but they can't explain any of the chemicals that are made within that body, within our body. They can't explain it. So I went through that, and I did a lot of other things, using thermodynamics and a few other complicated terms that we use as engineers, and tried, and then I said, okay, I've laid that out, and as far as I'm concerned, this is proof of God by existence. These things exist, they're so complicated that they cannot be made spontaneously. Now you tell me how they can be made spontaneously to the group of engineers. None of them could respond. It had to be done by the Creator. I know that it was done by the Creator. Let me take a simple example. When you eat something, it goes to your stomach and starts the digestion process. It has saliva that helps digest, eulopsin, steapsin, and trypsin, and things that's in your stomach. These are chemicals. And it also has a very simple one called hydrochloric acid. Very simple. Hydrogen, chlorine. Two molecules there together. Hydrochloric acid. Now I know how to make hydrochloric acid. You can take potassium chloride and mix it with sulfuric acid in a Mannheim furnace at 400 degrees Fahrenheit, and you can get hydrochloric acid. But your body can't do it that way. It takes something very special to make it in your body, and then it's very toxic. If you put hydrochloric acid on your hand or rub it on your skin, you're in trouble. It'll burn it. So in the stomach, it has to secrete a chemical that lines your stomach that protects it from hydrochloric acid. I mean, can you see what's going on? Then the lining is called mucus. So it's lined with mucus. Hydrochloric acid is there. And to digest your food, and some of the hydrochloric acid goes into your small intestine, where it'll destroy that intestine. And so the body has another chemical that secretes called sodium bisulfate. And it neutralizes it, and changes it into sodium chloride and water. That's so simple, which our body can handle. Well, how can all of that work? How can all of that work without God? We need a creator. And he has a reason for all of this. Why, where did we come from? Why are we here? Where are we going? It's all in the great plan. And the Father in heaven, he's our Father. He knows this. He knows what's going on. And he's lived for millions and millions and millions of years. And so he knows what the plan is. And now you are here and being tested to see whether you fit into the plan, whether you'll handle it or not. Okay, now I'll tell you one more thing. I have a good friend, Ryan Milares, but he doesn't believe in God. So, I have these handouts that we have. I think there's enough there, I don't know. I told him, I am going to live forever. And I want to make sure that I get what our Father in heaven has, the best he's got. And he tells me I can get that if I obey his laws. If I obey his commandments, I know that I can get that. But you, Ryan, you want to do exactly what you want to do, and you don't believe in God, but you're a good man, and you do all of these things that are important. But you don't believe that you will exist after you die. Well, what if you're wrong? Then what? When you pass through the veil, like I think is going to happen, and you see that you may have missed out. I mean, I'm in a win-win situation. If I die and there isn't a God, so what? But if there is, then I made a big mistake if I haven't studied, tried to research, believed in the Bible, prayed to see if Joseph Smith is a prophet or not, listened to the Holy Ghost. And he said, well, you know, I agree. I agree. And hopefully he'll let that over. Okay. One time before I became an evaporite scientist, I was a rocket scientist. I worked for Hercules Powder Company. And I was working on a project that was confidential. And I had a badge here that said confidential. So that everywhere I went within the plant, Hercules Powder Company, they could read the badge and know that I'm cleared for confidential information. And there was a problem with the rocket. And so they asked me to look it over, find out what was going on. So I wrote a report. And then I sent the report out to different people, and it was stamped as secret. It was a secret. And so they said, we want you to have a meeting like this, get the engineers together, and discuss and talk about that report. And so I walked into the room where I was going to give the lecture on the report, and the guard said, you are not cleared for secret. You've only got confidential. No. And I said, well, I wrote it and I'm giving the lecture. And he looked at me and says, I don't give a blank. This meeting is secret and you're cleared for confidential. And you're not. And what did I think? The Holy Ghost says, that's what's going to happen in the celestial kingdom. No matter how good you are, Mr. Brown. If you don't do certain things, you're not getting in. And we need to have those things. Faith, repentance, baptism, gift of the Holy Ghost, obeying the commandments. And if you don't do that, no matter how good you are, you're not making it. And that's what the scriptures try to tell us. And that's what we're here on earth, is to get clear for top secret. And go into this and be able to participate in all of the great things that our Father did. Eye has not seen, nor ear heard, neither hath entered into your hearts the things that our Father in heaven has for you. When I went through college, I had a slide. I went all the way through college on a slide. I don't know if you know what a slide rule is. There were no such things as calculators. We didn't have cell phones. When I was a kid, our neighbors didn't even have flash toys. I mean, I'm talking just 60, 70 years ago. The things that all of you have, but we progressed and we learned, and now if I'd had a calculator, I could have done so much more. And those are and so now the Lord's telling us, it doesn't matter what you see and what great things you've got. There's lots more wonderful, marvelous things that await us in the celestial kingdom. And a lot of you young kids, you're going to see even, I mean, compare a slide rule to a calculator. Wow, there's just no comparison. And compare a calculator or well, they even have TV. You have all of these things. You have TV, and the whole world is opening up more and more to you. But our Father in heaven says, no, that's nothing. Wait till you come to the celestial kingdom. Wait till you pass through the veil of death and find out you're still alive. And all of these things will be opened up. But you need to obey some of the rules of heaven. Satan didn't want to obey any of them, and he was kicked out right away. We did. We obeyed the rules and said, all right, you're a good candidate. Now you're on earth. Now there's some more rules that you're going to have to learn. And when we die, we're going to find out that. I know that that's all true. I just wished I knew when I shined the flashlight to the moon, the light can get there in 1 second. I wish I knew how that would go on. Maybe I'll find that out. But it's not going to happen now because no scientist has been able to explain it to me yet, how we can do that. 1 second! Okay, let's go to the moon. Well, I can go on and on and on and on. I know they're true, but I don't understand them. And because I know they're true, I know the rules, how to follow them, and I follow those, and that got me my degree in chemical engineering. I learned all of those different rules. But there's a whole lot more rules that we'll learn after we die, as long as we can follow a few rules here.
Uncle David, if you know the speed of light and you know the distance to the moon, doesn't that answer your question? I'm not sure what your point was that you were making.
How can it go 186,000 miles a second?
Yeah, right.
What makes it go there? How can it do that?
Yeah.
What? I mean, explain that to me. No, we know it can go, but how can it so rapidly, 186,000 miles in 1 second? That is really fast.
What goes that fast?
Light.
Light.
Oh, when you turn on the light switch?
When you turn on the light switch. So like I say, if I have a bright enough, if I shoot a laser at the moon, it takes 1 second for it to travel to the moon. Well, I want to know how it can do that. He's gonna tell me what I need to do.
I mean, all these constants, we know they exist, but we don't understand why. All the constants of nature.
But when we read in the Doctrine and Covenants of the Lord, gives us a little explanation. He says, there is no such thing as immaterial matter. It's always been there.
Well, you know, one question I had ever since I was a little girl, and I asked my mom this when I was a little girl, and she said, I don't know, you'll have to ask him when you get up there, is, you know, they have all these different theories how life began, but how did it all begin in the first place? When was the very beginning that, you know, how did it all start?
Well, you won't like my answer. It never had a beginning. It's always been. Now, it's up to you. The world has infinitely started a long time ago, never, and it will never end. It is, as the Lord says, the Alpha and Omega. I am the beginning. It had a beginning. Well, I don't know what happened billions and billions and trillions and billions of years ago. You know, we'll have to ask our Father. But I do know a lot of things that are governed, and all things are governed by it, sometimes with a law. So, when did our Father in heaven have a beginning? One of the apostles, and it's just his thought, he said, as man now is Father in his law. He had to go through the human into this man. Maybe he was like Jesus Christ. And Jesus Christ had it. He is a God. He had to go through that experience. I don't know that understand. There's a lot of things that I don't understand. But there are some things that I know. And those are my Father in heaven exists. He's real. He's true. And we have a living prophet today. And Joseph Smith actually saw God. And just like Daniel, he was the instrument to put forth the. And is there any other questions? Oh.
I just wonder what happens to all the people that pass away. I mean, I know what happens to them because I feel their spirit coming through my house sometimes. I was very close to a lady and she comes and visits me all the time. I feel her all the time. I feel Grandma Betts all the time. I feel that she's here right now. But you still wonder where these people that have died.
Yeah. Life goes on. You go through the veil and you'll see. And you'll see that spirit is spoken by Jesus Christ in the doctrine of God. He says, a spirit isn't just, it's made out of matter, but we don't, it's very fine and purified matter, but it's not a nothing. And in other circumstances, we will be able to see it and know that.
So I just wondered what Joanne has to say will answer your question because she has actually had an experience where she's had and it won't take long.
Yeah,
It
no,
will
I'm
answer.
to the end. But I do want to say something. There's many instances that I personally had to testify. Jesus is the Christ. The experiences that you gain through prayer. I mean, really, sometimes I don't get an answer, but later I get it. But he does, if you're strong in your heart, and I think, you know, I got, or I got a problem, and the answer to it, I've always got answers. And like I said, I know Jesus Christ exists. And I'm grateful for that. And I want everybody to know it. Well, okay, let me just say amen to that.
I want to say something, Uncle David, stay there just for a minute. You know, I want, kind of like what Bart said, it's interesting to me with your education and the study that you've done over the years, you begin to see the complexities of the chemical engineering of the body and of this idea of, you know, what does it take to manufacture insulin? The reality is, most of us don't look at life through that lens, right?
Yes.
And for you to have an experience with that, there's some within the family that have had close experiences to that and have looked at things and have studied things hard. Matthew's a scientist, you know, mine's more a science of computers than it is in the past a science of the body or other things, but it's interesting to see that you've looked so close at things and come to a conclusion. There are some things that just can't be explained with the finite understanding that we have without there being a supreme being that would direct that. And I just want to tell you that we're grateful that you take the time to share that insight to us and to share that experience with us. It's meaningful for us, and it's really meaningful, Uncle David, to know that members of our own blood have dived down so deep in certain things, and that we don't. There's a certain amount of value in both the faith, but there's also something that's very ratifying in the science of what we understand too, because I still believe that the greatest scientist is our Heavenly Father.
Me too.
Thank you.
Well, I'll just leave these out here. These are my soapboxes. I send out a soapbox to my grandchildren, great-grandchildren that can read. And so I send out 70 of these every month.
It's gonna get bigger.
That I have total in our family line with my wife is 135. And so I send out a soapbox. Which means I stand on a soapbox like I used to as a missionary and preach the gospel. So that's how I send. And so this is one on forever. So if you want to look that over again, I mean, forever goes on and on and on. And when you think you're going for on and on and on forever and ever, it ought to send chills through you.
Yeah, it does.
And make you want to make it all I want to do the right thing if it's going to cause me any problems later. Anyway, I've got that, I've got Nebuchadnezzar's dream, and if you don't have the living Christ, grab one. Okay,
Uncle
I
David.
appreciate you listening.
Uncle David, where were you again when you told the woman that the world was round and she laughed at you? Where were you?
I was in Chile, up in the Andes. Pretty well isolated.
Yeah.
But if you go look on the map, you'll see a great big salt. Out of the Atacama.
That's where you were.
How much we appreciate what you've done today.
Well, I hope I can be of any influence.